So today's tutorial is a puff pastry flour filled with Nutella, which I posted a picture of on my Instagram page. When I asked what you guys wanted to see, I got loads of people saying pastry and stuff with chocolate, so I thought this would be a really nice way to combine the two. It doesn't have to be with chocolate, you can fill it with absolutely anything and you can make it savoury. Lots of people have been doing that with the scones recipe and changing it up a bit, so feel free to do that with this one too. And send me pictures, of course. So there's two parts to this tutorial. I've got the pastry section, which I've already recorded and I'm going to post separately because I know that some of you might want to make the pastry like I've done, but some of you might just want to buy shop bought pastry and use that because it's a little bit easier. So if you do want to make the pastry, look at that bit first and make the pastry, and then this is picking up from the point where we've got the pastry, we've rolled it out and cut it up, but I'll go through that properly in a minute. So again, really straightforward recipe, more about the technique than anything. And of course, like I said, I've got Nutella, but you can use whatever you want. You could probably even use a different kind of spread if you didn't want to use Nutella. So first things first, with the 500 grams of puff pastry that I made in the last video, I'm now going to roll, well, I have already rolled that out. If you're starting with a block of shop bought pastry, 500 grams is more than enough, and what I would do is cut it into thirds, roll each one out, and then put this is what I've done, pop a dinner plate, whatever size, dinner plates are generally the same size, pop a dinner plate over the top, cut around it so that you end up, do that 3 times obviously, so that you end up with 3 of these, which are just discs of pastry. So I've got my 3 discs of pastry here. They do get quite soft quite quickly, and you want to work as quickly as you can because you don't want the pastry to get too soft. You want it to stay as cold as possible. So that's the pastry bit done. So I've got my 3 discs here, and now all we're going to do now is just assemble it. So it's really straightforward. It's just about assembling this more than anything, because pastry, as you probably know, when it cooks, it sort of does all the hard work for you anyway. So the things that we need for assembling the pastry are 3 discs, 100 grams of Nutella or whatever you're going to use. I've also, on the ingredients list, there was milk in there because I've put in a tiny bit. I said 2 tablespoons of milk. I've probably put in about a teaspoon or maybe 2 teaspoons of warm milk into this just to loosen it up slightly so it's a little bit easier to spread. So that's the Nutella. And then all you need is a sheet of baking paper. So that's the size of my baking tray. So I'm going to get that ready. Before we do anything, you want to make sure that your oven's on and really nicely heated up. You don't want to put this into a kind of medium or cool oven. So you want your oven at 200 degrees and you want this to go in when it's at 200 degrees. So get it preheated and make sure it's at the right temperature. So while that's on and heating up, we're going to put this together. So the first thing we've got, like I said, is my sheet of baking paper, which I'll eventually put onto the baking tray. And then we're going to start with 1 of the discs of pastry. So pop that on here. Now I'm going to layer this up, and then before I start doing the cutting and the twisting, I might change the angle of the camera slightly so that the rest of the video is a close-up of what I'm doing and you can actually see it properly, because it is a little bit fiddly and it might not really show very well like this. So 1 disc of pastry down, and then you want to get your Nutella. Now we've got 100 grams in here, so I'm going to split that in 2 and put half of it on this layer, put another sheet on, and then use the other half. So use half of what you've got, and you just want to pour it on, spread it on, so that you get about half. Just going to get my fingers picked up. Right, and then you just want to spread it on so that you're covering most of the disc. The bits that you obviously leave without Nutella on them are not going to, obviously they're not going to have any chocolate inside them when you cook it. So I like to try and go as close to the edge as possible so that every piece has got some chocolate in it. And this is what I mean about adding the milk, because if you don't add the milk, you start to drag your pastry quite a lot. So you don't necessarily need to add the milk, but you just have to be a lot more careful when you're spreading it that you don't keep tugging on the pastry and ruin its shape. So that's quite close to the edge. I think it's probably fine. So that's the first one done. You can see that. I'm going to add the second layer. Start when you add it from the bottom so that you give yourself a bit of space if you need to stretch the top to cover the whole thing. But that's fine. Stretch out on the sides a bit. Try and keep a nice circle as much as possible. And the next half of Nutella. I mean, I've only tried this with Nutella, but you could probably try it with a few other things. A lot of people like to use Biscoff spread in their baking, which is really nice. I've had it before, but not used it in anything like this, but you could maybe give it a go. I guess you just have to bear in mind what's going to cook well under that kind of temperature. So that's the next one on. I'm just going to spread this out. If you have lots of tools, because you're a bit of a baker anyway, and you have a turntable and a spatula, then, which I do have, but I thought I'd do it this way, that would be great. It would make life a lot easier. Just pop it on the turntable and use your spatula to spread it. Okay, so almost done. There we go. Perfect. So then all you want to do is add the last bit of pastry on top. Okay, and try it where you can to make sure that your edges sort of line up. Just makes life a bit easier when you're cutting the shape. Okay, I'm really happy with that. So what I'm going to do now, I'll show you this bit as we are, and then I might change the angle of the camera. So what you want to create is a bit of a circle in the middle that hasn't been cut into, because that's going to hold your flour together. So you want to use something, oh, that's my oven ready. You want to use something to put here so you don't cut into that piece. And I found that actually the lid from my little jar of Nutella was a perfect size, so I'm going to use that. And I'm going to pop it in what I think is the middle. There you go, and just press it gently to give a little indent. It doesn't need to cut anything. So there you go. So you've got now you've got a nice little circle. You know that you're not going to cut into that area. You're going to cut around it. So that's what I used. Okay, so what I'm going to do is try and change up the angle slightly and show you how we actually slice this up and then twist the pieces together to make the nice flower shape. I'm then going to coat it with some egg. If you want to make this eggless, of course all the ingredients are eggless, and then you can just dust it, coat it with milk instead of egg at the end. And then we're going to put it in the oven for exactly 20 minutes, so 20 minutes at 200 degrees. You might want to check yours at about 18 minutes and make sure it's not burning. I know that in my oven, 20 minutes exactly is perfect. If I leave it any longer, it does start to burn the pastry. But I would check it at 18, and if you feel like it's done at 18 in your oven, then take it out. But I'm going to switch the angle around, show you what we do, and then put it in the oven and show you what it looks like afterwards. So I'll say bye for now, and I hope you enjoyed this recipe. I hope you try it at home and send me pictures, and I'll put them on my Instagram page like always. Thank you so much for watching.